What's up, guys? McKay here with the CleanTech Daily Technology News Review, and man, boy, was I wrong. I did not think that this was possible, but like I said, I have been proven wrong. So I'm sure, like me, a lot of you have seen people like put sticky notes or put pieces of tape over their webcams because they're afraid that like Facebook or Google is watching them through their webcam without their webcam alerting them. Well, apparently there was a student who hijacked an iPhone camera, and he also did the same with the Mac, and Apple paid him what's called a bug bounty of $100,000. And basically a bug bounty is what you can do is like you pretend to hack, or you try to hack into the company or like or try to find a vulnerability of the company, and rather than exploiting it and like trying to cause damage, you exploit the bug, but not the not the victim. You find the bug and then you turn it into the company, in this case Apple, and Apple or these other large companies pay large sums of money for people that can find bugs in their system, because in the long term, if a person's doing it to find a bug and then they turn it in, it's only going to make Apple or any other company stronger in terms of their software. So let's go behind the story here. So by the name of Ryan Pickren, he used an imaginative approach that allowed him to run an arbitrary code to target Mac and receive what he believes to be the largest bug bounty Apple has ever paid. Basically, he's a PhD student in cybersecurity at the Georgia Institute of Technology, so sounds like a pretty smart guy. And then back in 2019, he discovered a handful of vulnerabilities that he exploited to enable him to switch on an iPhone camera and microphones without having to grant privacy permission. So he's able to take an iPhone and he was able to turn on your camera and your microphones without the person knowing, which is kind of freaky, so they could watch what you're doing and everything like that. So definitely just something very odd. And something kind of funny is like people always, like a lot of people cover their webcams on their computers or their computers or laptops, but I don't think I've ever seen anybody do it with their phone. I've only seen one thing that I think I've seen that is actually somebody put on their phone to block their camera phone, but I just think that's interesting. So he said that Apple's camera security is really intense, but he did succeed in changing multiple exploits to defeat it, and he reported the bug to the iPhone maker, and they paid him $75,000. But the iPhone was not enough. So he went to the Mac, and he wanted to see if he could prove the Mac. Now, from what I read, I'm not going to read everything word for word, but from what I found, the Mac was much more difficult. So here's how he had to do it. It was through the iCloud sharing in Safari 15. While this bug does require the victim to click open on a pop-up from my website, it results in more than just multimedia permission hijacking. This time, the bug gives the attacker full access to every website ever visited by the victim. That means in addition to turning on your camera, my bug can also hack your iCloud, PayPal, Facebook, Gmail, etc. accounts too. So not only was this a vulnerability for your camera, but it sounds like he was able to go through iCloud, and I'm going to explain how he got through iCloud, and get into bank accounts, your pictures, your Facebook, your Gmail, anything that's sensitive information he basically had access to. So like the details are somewhat involved, but one of the keys in doing so was a vulnerability in an iCloud sharing app called ShareBear. So it was a vulnerability found within an app that iCloud uses called ShareBear. And like it said, he had a pop-up, and I'm sure there's a lot of technicalities in the code behind this, but basically there was a pop-up that would come up, and you just have to click open, and I'm sure you could make the pop-up look like it came from Apple, but the pop-up would just say like open here, and it would give you access to not only the webcam, but like I said, all this sensitive information as well. So he turned this into malware, and Mac would happily run this malware. So he said there was much more than this, as you can read in his detailed run-through. We're not going to read through his detailed run-through, but his top-level approach was to persuade a user to open an innocent remotely shared document, subsequently change that document into a disk image containing malware, fool Safari into opening the image and keep running the malware, do this in a way that doesn't trigger Gatekeeper. So it sounds like this was not anything easy. Obviously, Apple's from what I can understand, an extremely secure software platform. Their OSs, and for him to be able to do this sounds pretty intense. He does have a PhD in cybersecurity, so it took a pretty high-level person to be able to do this. This allowed him to do a number of things, including activate the Mac's webcam and microphones. Apple does hardware wire and the telltale LED to the camera, so it's not possible to switch on the camera without also lighting the green LED. But this might be easily go unnoticed if the Mac is just sitting in the corner of the room at the time. So it did still alert the green LED. So Apple did pay the bounty of $100,000, and he notified the company to fix them. And something interesting is he submitted these bugs to Apple in July of 2021, and they patched all issues in early 2022. So it took him about 6 months, and they gave him a $100,500 bounty as a reward. So it sounds like this was extremely lengthy. I found this super interesting. I didn't think that this happened all that often. It doesn't sound like it happens often, but it's cool to be that I was able to see this and to see a good outcome from Apple fixing their software. The other thing that I want to talk about today is something called Clean Phone. Now, Clean Phone, it's not an iPhone, but what it does do is it protects your kids from the malicious things that you can find online. A lot of people, they want to give their kids phones, but they don't want to give their kids full access to the internet. Well, CleanOuter is the answer to that problem. CleanOuter provides parents and people to manage the apps so they can decide which apps are or are not on the phone. You can also monitoring the text messages as well as phone calls. You can also schedule apps for how long people can use it. So maybe you only want your kids to use TikTok for half an hour, or you can give your kid TikTok for half an hour and you don't want them to have Instagram. That's all manageable. There's also screen time reports, so you can get a message of exactly how long your family member was on each app for the certain amount of time. So if your kid was saying, hey, I'm doing homework for the last 2 hours, you can look on the screen time report and be like, for the last hour and a half, you were on TikTok. So these are kind of the benefits and features that come along with Clean Phone. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions about Clean Phone, consider checking out the links in the description or commenting, and we'll be happy to get to you. And also, consider subscribing if you enjoy these daily tech reviews. And like always, see you next time. Happy tech reviews.